Hey, I'm Ryan, this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family, and the topic for today is the games that we most recommend that are like the classic card game, Uno.
Uno!
Yes, most people are familiar with Uno. It's a pretty popular casual card game, and these aren't necessarily going to be the games that are most like it, though I would say that some of our suggestions are pretty similar. But they're the ones that we maybe most recommend that we feel kind of fit in a similar space and that we think are maybe worth checking out.
Yeah, and I feel like, Ryan, you're kind of the resident expert here of Uno with your son. You and your son have been grinding the Uno games. And so Ryan has lots of experience here going into
To be clear, my son is 3 years old.
Oh, okay.
But we have played a lot of Uno. And yeah, I actually have a whole video of best games for 3-year-olds if you want to check that out.
Yeah, there you go. Go check that out. But actually, don't check it out because you're here for this video. So we've got links to all these 5 recommendations down below if you want to check them out for yourself. But hey, Ryan, let's jump into it with our first recommendation.
So the first game we want to recommend is called Llama. And Llama is a card game where you are trying to get rid of all your cards, just like in Uno. But here, instead of matching the color or the number, it's actually just going to be climbing in number. So if a 3 is out there, you could either play another 3 or you could play a 4. And eventually it's going to go from 6 to Llama, and then llamas loop back to 1. And so you're kind of just, the discard pile is looping as everybody's trying to get rid of their cards and go out first. But the catch is that you also have the option to drop out of the round, in which case you're just taking whatever points are in your hand, which is bad. You don't want points, but you're maybe cutting your losses and accepting that this is maybe better than if you stay in the round, because if you can't play, staying in the round means you need to draw another card from the deck. And part of what makes this even more interesting is the way your hand gets scored, because each number in your hand only gets counted once. So if you have 3 6s in your hand, that's just 6 points, not 18 points. And so if you're sitting in your hand with 3 6s, that's not actually that bad of a hand to fold with. Whereas if you draw a 5 or even worse, a llama, which is 10 points, you could really increase, the scoring of your hand. However, you also want to stay in the round, because if you can be the one to go out first, you're going to get to return one of your point chips to the supply, getting rid of points. And that is made even more interesting by a very arbitrary scoring decision, which is that the game comes with chips in 1s and 10s. And the rule when you go out is you can return any chip. So if you're over 10 points, it's actually 10 points you're getting rid of. And this adds some very fun kind of like dynamic elements of people being able to come back, or just like you're never completely out of it. We have seen some big comebacks in this game. But it just comes together in a nice package of very quick play around the table, playing cards, and there's kind of funny moments, laughing. It just gets a nice energy, but it's still got some kind of just interesting decision points of, do I stay in the round or do I drop out of the round? And it also has kind of this like push your luck element of like, I could stay in the round, and like, if it comes down to just me at the end, I can't draw anymore, but I can play as many cards as I'm able to. And if I happen to have a hand full of sequential cards, I could potentially play my whole hand out and, win the round. And that's just a very exciting moment. So if you're looking for a game about 2 to 6 players that kind of has some of that excitement while still being very casual, easy to teach, can definitely recommend checking out Llama.
Now, our next recommendation is going to go to the light card game Push. Now, this is a game for 6 players where on your turn, you are drawing cards from a deck and placing them out into one of 3 columns. And these cards range from 1 to 6 with different colors. And ultimately, you're trying to build the best column of cards for yourself so that you can take them and ultimately score points. But the tension in it is that you can never place the same number or the same color in one column. And so you can keep drawing from the deck, but as you do that, if you ever have to place the same number or same color in one of those 3 columns, you bust. Now, this game has a whole push your luck element, because as you're building up maybe for one column, the other 2 columns that you don't take, the people clockwise from you get to take. So you're actually actively helping your opponents sometimes the longer that you go. In addition, one of the cards in the deck is a card that if you take it when taking your kind of grouping of cards, you have to actually roll this die and lose all cards that match the color of your die roll. And so there's a whole just kind of luck element of whether it's yourself or your neighbors who are having to take a column that has one of those cards. Now you can protect your cards on your turn. Instead of doing the whole push drawing from the deck, you can choose to, instead of taking a turn, bank one of your group's color of cards, and now you permanently have them for scoring. So it's a quick card game, but just has kind of a really fun kind of push your luck element. Rolling the die is a lot of fun as well, especially when someone's been kind of getting risky and has all these cards of one color, and then they roll it. I'm sure they don't like that, but everyone else has a great time when that happens. But a lot of fun, definitely one worth checking out, and that is Push.
Next up, we have another game that's about trying to get rid of all of the cards out of your hand, and this is Scout. Now, what makes Scout interesting is your cards in your hand can never be changed in the order. You can't rearrange your hand. And so you always have to be picking groupings that are already adjacent to each other in your hand. And these groupings could either be a set of the same number, or it could be a run, either ascending or descending. And you always have to play something that is going to beat the set that was currently played by the previous player. So it either needs to be more cards, or if it's the same number of cards, the sets of the same number are the stronger set. And so you're trying to do this and get rid of your cards and kind of collapse your hand down in a way that's going to, make other things that you can play. But if you can't play, or sometimes even if you just strategically don't want to play, you also have this option to scout, which means that you get to take a card from either the left or right side of the set that's currently out there, and you get to add it anywhere in your hand. And so that's very powerful because you can use that to maybe connect a run in your hand that wasn't complete, or add to a set to make it even stronger. And so the game is all about kind of like deciding when's the right time to scout, to be able to make your hand the type of hand that has sets that you can go out with, because you don't want to fall into the trap of getting rid of a bunch of your cards and being stuck with just a one or something that's really, really hard to get rid of. You're going to have to probably scout quite a bit to get the strength of your sets back up. And so it's a very interesting kind of twist on the formula. It's got some other little things like you actually each have one Scout and Show token that once per round, you can actually do a Scout and Show, which is to play cards in one action, which can be very powerful to take something and then immediately put it up. Another interesting thing is the cards actually are double-sided. They have a different number on each side. And at the beginning of the hand, you actually get to decide if you want to take your hand right side up, or if you want to turn it upside down, which would be a different hand. So it mitigates the luck a little bit of like getting a really bad hand. And it just adds another interesting decision at the beginning of the game. And so I think Push, if you're looking for something that's kind of got that getting rid of your cards of Uno, but maybe has a little bit more depth of strategy, some more interesting decisions, and kind of just like a different feel than other games in this genre, Scout is one that we can recommend checking out.
Now, our next recommendation is another card game, shocker, and this is going to go to Sushi Go Party. Now, this is a casual card game that really is card drafting at its core. In this game, you can play with up to 8 players, and everyone is dealt a hand of cards, and on your turn, you pick a card, and everyone simultaneously plays their card and passes their hand. This is card drafting really at its simplest form. Now, the cards in Sushi Go Party all score in different ways, and the fun of it is that every game, the menu is randomized. This is why Ryan and I really recommend the Party Edition, is you get a kind of unique menu of cards that score. So you could, for example, have the Tempura, which for every pair of Tempura you have, you're going to get 5 points. Whereas if you have the most Maki rolls of any player, you get 6 points. Wasabi, they triple the amount of points of the next nigiri you have. You can kind of see how all these cards are kind of play together. And you're going to do this and play all your cards out and then score it. And that's the end of one round. And the game is played over 3 rounds. Now, the one little twist on that is one of the cards in the decks is a dessert card. Now, desserts actually are the only card that stay out in between the 3 rounds. So you clean up the rest of the cards, but your dessert cards stay because desserts score at the end of all 3 rounds. And so that's really kind of how the game plays. It's a really easy one to teach. Plays quickly. Obviously, card drafting, you got simultaneous play. So it really keeps everyone engaged the whole time. But a fun, simple card game that we have enjoyed a lot and highly recommend.
And our last recommendation is a game that's been published under a variety of names. I think the original German was Six Nimmt, and there was a Category 5. The version that we're linking below and that I personally have is called Take 5. And this is a card game where everybody is going to be given a hand of cards, and they range from 1 to 104. It just covers all of those numbers. And everybody simultaneously on their turn is going to play 1 card down, and then they're all revealed simultaneously. And then starting with the lowest number, these are going to get added to the 4 rows that are in the middle of the table. These 4 rows were just 4 random cards that were dealt at the beginning of the game to start those rows. And each card is going to be slotted into the row that it's closest to, but would be ascending in that. So if I played a 15, it might go after the 12 to continue that row. And we're just going to be resolving this with all the cards that everybody played. But each row can only get up to 5 cards. And if your card would be the one to be the 6th in a row, you have to take the other 5 cards as points. And you do not want points in this game. And your card then becomes the first card of a new row. And so the game is all about kind of like predicting how some of it's going to play out based on like how close the numbers are in the rows. And if you play lower than any of the rows, you actually are forced to take a row, but you get to choose the row. And so this is interesting because sometimes that's a really good move because you can just take something that's not very much and you might really mess up somebody's plans because they thought they were going to go into the row that you then took the card out and their card ends up going somewhere else now. And ultimately, once everybody has played all their cards, you play enough rounds for your hands to be depleted, you're going to score all the cards you took based on the number of bowl icons on them, which varies, for different cards. So different rows end up being a lot, worse if you were to take them as points. And you're then going to repeat rounds like that until some player reaches 66 points. That will be the loser of the game. And then the winner will be whoever has the least points. And so this is a game that's, very casual, very easy to play, and strikes this nice balance between, kind of mindless fun and a lot of randomness with how it happens. But also for people that want to try to kind of think or strategize, there is a little bit there of like trying to anticipate how things might resolve or like the order to play your cards or when's the right time to play something low to take one. But you could have somebody else at the table that is literally just picking random cards out of their hand. We've played this with younger kids like our nephew. And, I think he was 4 or 5 at the time and he's just throwing random cards in there. And it's very funny how that, affects how everything resolves. So if you want a game like that, that's very kind of maybe appeals to both those that want to think a little bit and those that do not want to think at all, and also can support a larger player count. This technically can go up to 10, though I will warn you, as you get to those higher player counts, it is only becoming more and more chaotic. Good luck trying to predict how 10 cards are going to resolve when they're revealed. But it's one that I think could work really well for a lot of groups that are looking for that kind of casual card game. Hey, hope you found some new games to check out. Like we said, the links are below. If you're interested in hearing Daniel and I banter about various board game topics, feel free to subscribe to the channel. We put out a lot of different content. We've got the playlist over here of games in this series, which is our games like, XYZ game, where we just talk about recommendations that are similar to a game. Otherwise, there's another recommendation here, and we will see you in the next one.